Snow fell in heavy, silent sheets that Christmas night, muffling the city and making the world feel abandoned, as if everyone else had been called somewhere warm and safe while a few forgotten souls were left behind. On the edge of the old downtown district, near a closed church with broken stained glass and flickering streetlights, a former Navy SEAL stood frozen in his tracks, his breath fogging the air, his instincts screaming the way they once had in war zones far from home. He had survived ambushes, explosions, and years of combat, but nothing prepared him for the sight of a young widow sitting on the cold steps of the church, her thin coat wrapped around two trembling children, their faces pale with hunger and exhaustion on Christmas night. In that moment, something inside him cracked open, deeper than any old wound. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that can happen when one human chooses to care, take a moment right now to like this video, comment, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel so more stories like this can reach the hearts that need them most. The man had come back from the war 2 years earlier, carrying medals in a box and memories he could not escape. His name was Daniel Cross, though few people still called him by name. To most, he was just another veteran drifting through life, doing security work at night, sleeping little, and avoiding crowds because peace felt unfamiliar. Christmas had always been the hardest day for him, a reminder of brothers lost and families broken, so he walked the streets every year until the night passed. That was how he ended up there, under a broken streetlight, staring at a woman who looked like she had nowhere left to go. Her face was hollow but proud, the kind of pride that refuses to beg even when everything has been taken away. Her children leaned into her sides for warmth, their small bodies shaking as the wind cut through the alley. Daniel's training told him to assess the situation, to look for danger, to stay detached. But the human part of him, the part he had buried under discipline and survival, stepped forward instead. He noticed the way the woman's hands were red and cracked from cold, the way she kept brushing snow from her son's hair, the way her daughter clutched a torn stuffed animal like it was the last piece of her world. He learned without words that this was not a momentary hardship but a collapse of an entire life. The widow had not always been there. Her name was Elena, and just a year earlier she had lived in a small apartment filled with laughter, school drawings taped to the fridge, and the comforting weight of her husband's presence. He had worked construction, honest and tired every night, saving for a future that never came. An accident on a frozen site took him away in seconds, leaving Elena with 2 children, bills she could not keep up with, and a grief so heavy it bent her spine. She worked wherever she could, cleaned houses, washed dishes, but when the landlord raised the rent and her job hours were cut, the math stopped working. Shelters were full. Family was far away and struggling too. Pride and shame kept her silent until the silence became this night, this cold, this empty church step. Daniel did not speak, because the story demanded no words. He took off his heavy coat without hesitation and draped it around the children, ignoring the cold biting into his own skin. He sat on the step below them, placing his body between the wind and their fragile forms, like he had once done for men under fire. In that stillness, memories surged through him of another Christmas long ago, spent in a desert outpost where a care package arrived too late for the soldier it was meant for. He remembered thinking then that if he ever survived, he would not waste another chance to protect life when it was right in front of him. The night stretched on, and the city seemed to hold its breath. Daniel knew the system, knew how slow help could be, and knew that waiting might mean losing them to the cold. He made a decision the same way he had made decisions in combat, fast and absolute, guided by something deeper than logic. He stood, offered his hand not as a command but as a promise, and with a simple gesture invited them to follow him. It was not charity in his eyes, but duty. He took them to his small apartment across town, a place barely lived in, with sparse furniture and walls untouched by warmth. He turned on every heater, wrapped the children in blankets, and cooked the only food he had, canned soup that suddenly tasted like a feast. Elena watched him with disbelief and fear, the way someone watches a rope lowered into a dark pit, unsure if it will hold. She had learned the hard way that kindness often came with conditions, but this man asked for nothing, expected nothing, and treated her children with the gentleness of someone who knew how fragile survival could be. That night, while the children slept on his bed and couch, Daniel sat on the floor, back against the wall, keeping watch as if enemies might appear. But the only battle was inside him. He felt something shift, something heal in the act of simply being there. The ghosts that haunted him were quieter, as if respect was being paid to the living. Days turned into weeks, and what began as a single act of mercy became a fragile routine. Daniel helped Elena find resources he never knew he had access to, veteran networks that connected them to temporary housing, food assistance, and job leads. He fixed her broken confidence the way he fixed engines and doors, piece by piece, never rushing, never forcing. The children started laughing again, first cautiously, then freely, their fear melting in the presence of consistency and safety. Elena struggled with guilt, with the feeling that she was a burden, that she was failing as a mother. But Daniel understood shame better than anyone. He had carried it for surviving when others did not. He showed her through actions that accepting help was not weakness, that survival itself was an act of courage. Slowly, she began to believe it. As spring approached, Elena secured a steady job at a community center, inspired by the help she had received. She wanted to be the person who opened doors instead of closing them. The children thrived, excelling in school, their teachers amazed by the transformation. Daniel found himself smiling more, sleeping better, and for the first time since the war, imagining a future that did not end in silence. The past did not vanish. Daniel still woke some nights drenched in sweat, heart racing, but now there was someone who noticed, someone who quietly placed a cup of water beside him and let him come back to himself without judgment. Elena still mourned her husband, lighting a candle for him on quiet evenings, but the grief no longer crushed her alone. It shared space with gratitude, with resilience, with hope. On the next Christmas Eve, snow fell again, softer this time, like forgiveness instead of punishment. Daniel stood by the window of a modest but warm apartment, watching the children decorate a small tree with handmade ornaments. Elena cooked in the kitchen, humming a tune she had not realized she remembered. The air was filled with life, with something sacred that no church could contain. Just before the night settled, they walked together past the old church where it had all begun. The steps were empty now, clean and quiet. Daniel felt a lump in his throat as he realized how close all of them had come to being lost to the cold, to the cracks in the world where people fall through unseen. He understood then that survival was not about strength alone, but about connection, about choosing to see and be seen. If this story is touching your heart right now, please take a moment to engage with it. Like the video, share it with someone who believes in humanity, and let us know in the comments how this story made you feel. Your engagement helps stories of hope travel farther than darkness ever could. Before the ending, we have a special request for you. Please comment the word hope below if you believe that even one act of kindness can change a life, because your words might be the light someone else is searching for tonight. That Christmas night had begun with silence and despair, but it ended with a quiet miracle that no one would ever put in a history book. An ex-soldier learned that his mission had not ended with the war. A widow learned that loss did not mean the end of love. 2 children learned that the world could still be safe. And somewhere beyond the falling snow, something unseen but powerful took note, reminding us all that sometimes the bravest words a person can offer are not shouted in battle, but whispered through action on a cold night, carrying the simple promise that no one has to be alone.